first grade. This is Miss Becky. Today we will be hearing the Bible truth, and this is called Joseph in Prison. So, yesterday we heard the story of Joseph the dreamer, and today we're going to find out what happened to him after he was sold. Remember, he was sold by his brothers for silver coins, and now he has been taken. So, before we start this Bible story, though, boys and girls, remember we've talked about in class before how sometimes things are not fair and people often complain about unfair things. And the Bible says that Joseph does not complain. He knew, boys and girls, that God was with him. And he trusted God even when unfair things happened to him. Okay? Because so far he's had a lot of unfair things happen to him. So today we're going to read about Joseph again. And I want you to listen for the ways that Joseph handled the tough things that were happening to him. Okay? So this picture that you're looking at shows Joseph in prison. Okay? And even though bad things happened to Joseph, God was with him. Okay? And he understood, boys and girls, that God could take all the bad things and work it out for good. And Romans 8:28, which is Miss Becky's favorite Bible verse, that tells us that for we know in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So, I'm going to read the story, and I want you to listen to how Joseph handled things. Okay. How lonesome Joseph must have felt after he was sold into slavery by his own brothers. As he was taken by the traders down to Egypt, Joseph didn't know where he was going. He didn't know what would happen to him, but he did know that God was with him. Even though Joseph's brothers had not cared about Joseph, who cared? God cared. And once he was in Egypt, which is where you see him now, Joseph was sold to a man named Potiphar. Potiphar was the captain of the guards, and he guarded the Pharaoh. Do you see, boys and girls, the word that's underneath this picture? It's Pharaoh. That word is Pharaoh, and that is an Egyptian king. So you're going to hear that word some this week, and when you hear it now, you know that that's an Egyptian king. So Potiphar, who he was sold to, guarded the Pharaoh, the Egyptian's king, and the Lord was with Joseph, and he was successful in everything he did. And Potiphar realized that Joseph could be trusted, so he put Joseph in charge of everything that he owned. And because of Joseph, Potiphar was blessed too. Things went well for Joseph until, here it comes, Potiphar's wife tried to tempt Joseph to sin. And when Joseph refused, that means he didn't do what he knew was wrong, the wife lied about Joseph to her husband. Well, Potiphar believed his wife, and he had Joseph thrown into prison. And that's where you see him in this picture. He's on the right. So, this is Joseph. Okay? And one day, while Joseph was in prison, he met two other prisoners, the Pharaoh's butler and the baker. And one day, these two men were both sad. They had both had dreams the night before, and no one knew the meaning of their dreams. Joseph knew that God was with him and that God could help him tell the meaning of the dreams for the butler and the baker. So Joseph asked the butler to share his dream. Now, the butler had been responsible, boys and girls. His job was to taste any drink before the Pharaoh did to make sure it was safe. So before the king, the Pharaoh, could have a sip of something, the butler would taste it to make sure it was okay to drink. And for this reason, the butler was also known as the cupbearer. And he said, in my dream, I saw a grapevine with 3 branches. The vine grew grapes, and I squeezed the juice out of the grapes into the Pharaoh's cup, and then I gave the cup to the Pharaoh. And Joseph explained his dream. He said, well, the 3 branches you saw represent 3 days, and in 3 days, the Pharaoh will call you back into his service in the palace. You will be able to speak to the Pharaoh, where you will serve him his drink. Please remember to tell the Pharaoh that I don't deserve to be in prison, and perhaps he will release me. Okay, so that was Joseph explaining the butler's dream. And remember at the end, he said, and please tell the Pharaoh that I don't need to be in prison. And then the baker told Joseph his dream. And in my dream, he said, I had 3 baskets of bread on my head, and birds came from all around and they ate the bread. And Joseph explained, the 3 baskets you saw, they represent 3 days. And in 3 days, the Pharaoh will call you back, but you will not serve him again. You will be put to death. So, I'm thinking that the butler had good news, right? He said that he was going to be called back in 3 days to serve again in the palace. But now the baker, boys and girls, has been told, well, in 3 days, you're going to be called back, but you're not going to serve again. You're going to be put to death. And 3 days later, both the butler and the baker returned to the palace. And the butler, he served Pharaoh again as cupbearer. But the baker, he was put to death. However, the butler did not remember to tell the Pharaoh about Joseph. Remember what he had to tell him? He had to tell them, please release Joseph. He doesn't deserve to be in prison. Poor Joseph. He had to stay in prison, boys and girls, for a long time. So, today what we read was how Joseph dealt with unfair things. And remember, we talked about how he knew that who was with him? God. He was always honest. He worked hard. He did his very best. So let's go over some questions to see what you remember from the Bible truth for today. Who bought Joseph from the traders? Do you remember his name? It starts with a P. Potiphar. And why was Joseph sent to prison? Do you remember what Potiphar's wife did? She lied about him. And Potiphar believed his wife. And Joseph was sent to prison for something he did not do. And what did Joseph ask the butler or the cupbearer to do when he went back to the Pharaoh? Right, he said, please tell him that I was put into prison unfairly and I should be allowed to go free. But boys and girls, what did the butler forget to do? Right, he forgot to tell the Pharaoh. So now Joseph had to stay in prison for even longer. So today you're going to be doing Bible Workbook page 22. And it's from lesson 6.2. And you're going to be writing either yes or no. Yes, if the sentence you read is true, that means it did happen. And no, if it is not true, false, you're going to write the word no. And then on the bottom, you're going to draw a picture of Joseph in prison. So if you want to look at this picture, you can copy this one, or you can just use your imagination and draw what you think Joseph looked like. And you're going to draw a picture of him in prison on the bottom of your workbook page. I sure do miss you. Can't wait to see you. Bye.